think hospitality is a great start, even if you don't want to stay in hospitality. I think that it builds character and it's like transferable, all those skills into any industry.
Today on Dirty Linen, we're talking to Niyoka Bundle. She is a Gunditjmara and Yuin culinary entrepreneur, and along with her head chef and husband, Vincent Manning, they've opened Pawa Cafe and Bar at Humour Hall at the Arts Centre in Melbourne. That's the follow-up business to their Indigenous-fusion catering company, Pawa, and the very excellent Taka Gin. Niyoka, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Thank you for having me.
Really good to have you on the show, and I'm grateful to you for taking the time in the middle of a restaurant opening, which is never easy or smooth. How are you going?
We're going really well. We've had a couple of little hiccups, which is, to be expected. So that's why in the first couple of weeks we sort of did like a soft launch without officially announcing it. So we could make sure we had like any little hiccups sort of, fixed, and then we officially opened. And then of course there was still a couple of other little things, but we're so lucky because we actually found like a really great team of people. So they really worked with us to make everything as smooth as possible. So I'm thankful I found them.
Oh, that's so good and so lucky, and not what you always hear these days when it comes to employment in hospitality. But tell us about the project, the Pawa project, both with the catering company and with this new venue.
Yeah, so in lockdown, actually, we were approached to do like sort of a pop-up, like a summer pop-up when COVID was going to finish. And the Arts Centre approached us and were like, hey, they've got this space. They heard about our catering company through the grapevine, and they were like, are you interested in doing this? And I was like, oh yeah, maybe it might be a good idea. And then I think after like a few discussions, then I think we got locked down again. So they were like, oh, well, let's make it like more of a permanent thing, so it's not just like a waste of time, just for the summer. And then, we just like basically talked the whole time in COVID and like all these plans and how we were going to do it and what sort of, offering that we would have. And I think it was it just went from there. And like now that like we're actually open, it's just been like sort of like working with family. Like the Arts Centre has been so good, and the partnership that we've created together, is just like not only beneficial for me as a person, but I think it's just great for like the Aboriginal community in itself just to be represented like along South Bank in the Arts Centre. And so it's just a really nice growth for our catering company to go into something new and have a new offering, but based around that, the same offering from our catering company, which is sort of like infusing native foods in like Western or European cooking techniques.
Yeah, well, it totally makes sense for you to have a presence there, and it is really exciting. The Arts Centre is such an iconic building, but of course, for tens of thousands of years, that site has been important for Aboriginal people. So, I mean, it feels very fitting and right to be walking across the bridge, across the river, and there's Pawa right there, very prominent. And I suppose, when you think about Mabu Mabu at Federation Square and the Indigenous Gallery there at Federation Square, it really does make sense that it's more of an Indigenous hub.
Yeah, I'm so proud of it as well, because like just even being like a female person, like the food industry, like, and being Aboriginal as well, I think it's just a really good thing to show like, the next generation and people, I guess even internationals and just even the local Melbourne people, like who we are and what we do, and that like, we've also got some really cool things going on. And I think it's just, even if it's just like a normal cafe offering coffee, like it's still an achievement in itself, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing to open any small business. There's always going to be challenges. And when you've got, this other really strong thread and I guess purpose behind what you do, then it's even more meaningful. But tell us, Niyoka, like, how do you come to be doing this? Tell us a bit about your background, your journey through food, and why you've chosen to take this path.
Yeah, so I grew up in East Gippsland, and then we moved to Warrnambool when I was in teenage years or whatever. And I guess I've just always worked in hospitality, and I think like back then when you're working, it like, you know, everything was just like, there wasn't all those rules and everything. Like you got like, you know, like if you had a hard chef above you, you just did what you had to do to get through. And, you know, you learnt like the really hard way, I think. And I think that that's what builds you. And hospitality is so good because it just builds character. And, you know, I loved working like that old school way. And I think that that's where my passion came from, just like learning from others. And I'm not like a professional trained chef or anything. I just loved home cooking, and I used to cook for my grandpa when I was younger, and I used all my grandma's old recipes and sort of just played around with that. And they were like handwritten ones on like little pieces of paper. So it was really nice doing that for him. And I think that's where like, you know, the passion comes from, you know, like once you see people happy eating the food, it's really easy to, I don't know, I guess continue and sort of like, make new recipes and find out things. And because my husband's a chef as well, that just like went hand in hand. And we lived in Geelong, and we just decided, yep, we're going to open this catering company. And we literally borrowed like $600 from my mum and dad, and we just started it. We got this really small commercial kitchen in Brunswick, and we were driving from Geelong to Brunswick every day and doing it. And then, yeah, we just got bigger. We got a bigger commercial kitchen. We moved to West Footscray, and we just got the word out there. And I just really tried my hardest to, I guess, you know, to show up to all those events and do really, really well. And word of mouth was our biggest thing. Like once people got, you know, wind of it, it just flowed on from there. And then we've been going ever since. And obviously, like, you know, without COVID, and like during 2019, we were like, we couldn't even keep up. We were just so busy. And then, yeah, from then on, we're just, you know, with the partnership with the Arts Centre. And then obviously during COVID as well, we launched Taka Gin as well, because I just couldn't sit still. I had to work. So we decided to do that.
Yeah, well, so much going on. When was it that you actually launched Pawa, Niyoka?
In 2019 at the start, pretty much like, yeah, February.
Oh, and then geared it right up. That's amazing. It's been, I mean, you know, it's grown so quickly, even with the interruptions of the pandemic. Did you, like, how did you conceive of putting, you know, with this Indigenous fusion approach? Like, had you always been cooking with some of those ingredients, or was it something that you sort of conceptualized and then developed the recipes?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I didn't always cook with them. I sort of always cook like, you know, like everyday, like home meals, like, you know, but I think that just because like my husband's technique is really sort of refined, and he does like those like canapes and a la carte, really nice fine dining stuff, I think that we saw the opportunity to combine those two things, and not that it hadn't already been done, but just in a way that people would actually want to eat the food, because, you know, like you can't like serve like exactly like traditional food because it's not like, you know, it wouldn't be perceived so well. So combining those two, I thought, like in a way that people would want to try, want to eat. It's not so like in your face, like, you know, like dried fish or kangaroo, like that type of thing. If you can make it into something that is like a nice, like we did a couple of dishes like that was kangaroo bourguignon and stuff like that, and that just like, you know, that makes sense, you know what I mean, like those flavor profiles, that technique, it's like, yeah. So and then we made them into like little pies, that sort of thing, and that sort of testing from then on, it just like it you know, like it's sort of like endless, you know what I mean, like as long as you get those flavor profiles right.
Love it. So tell us about some of the canapes. What are some of the other dishes that you know people love when you present them?
I think just like even just quiche, like little mini quiches that incorporate catering. In the canapes, we've done like rabbit spring rolls, even though that rabbit's not native, but it's just like, it's a thing that my grandpa used to eat. And I think that, you know, older people from that generation like relate to meals like that. Do you know what I mean? Like old school rabbit stew or whatever. And then we've got kangaroo pies. We've got like I'm trying to think now. We do like beetroot crepes with these really nice like thyme integrated into it, native thyme. You know, just to try and keep it simple, so it's that nice little sort of like has that little twist. But in the cafe, we've actually got like a lot of pastries with incorporated into it. Like we've got a native peach croissant. And we've been experimenting with a panna chocolate with strawberry gum, and that works really, really well. And they just look so nice. So it's easier to, I guess because food's a visual thing as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, what sort of journey do you hope people will go on when they try some of these dishes? Like, is it, what do you want them to think and what do you want them to do next?
I think like it's about, well, for me, because like when my son, like if we're cooking with my son or whatever, I think it's inspiring that next generation not to lose like cooking, I think, and like to see what we've got here, to see how easy it can be. I mean, because it's native food, it's like you can get the powders easily, more so than like fresh stuff, and it's really easy to incorporate in that sense, like for home cooks. And I think like inspiring people to use native ingredients is really important because I think that not only for like environmental issues, like if we could get those back into commercial spaces, it would benefit like everybody nutritionally, environmentally. It's just better all around basically.
I mean, one of the biggest issues with Indigenous foods is where the money goes. Is it a focus of yours to source from other Aboriginal-owned businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like one of the issues in like the whole industry. Like even with Taka Gin, I mean, that's like $1 billion industry. Same with native foods, it's huge, and it's only just growing and rapidly. And one of the issues is that Aboriginal people aren't at the forefront of that. And I think that making sure you have that ethical supply chain right down to where you're getting it from is really, really important. And that's why we are always above that. I've got really good connections. And I think also behind the scenes, people think that there might not be things going on behind the scenes, but there are lots of little projects that are up and coming that are trying to be at that forefront, especially provide Victorian natives as well, because a lot of them can come from up north or Queensland. So it's really good that there's all these little projects, especially where I come from, in Gunditjmara and Yuin. They've got loads of things getting off the ground, and I think they're going to be huge. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, I mean, it definitely does cross my mind when Australia, it's just such a huge country, and of course, has so many Aboriginal nations within it with so many different foodways and environments. Sometimes it feels like there is a kind of flattening out of this whole idea of Indigenous ingredients, and the regionality of those foods and the seasonality isn't always expressed. Is that something that you think about as well? Yeah, and I think also being transparent as well with everyone is the seasons are really hard. It's not always available. A lot of the things you have to get in frozen and keep it fresh that way. And also the pricing, it's down the supply chain. You want to make sure that you're actually contributing to something and not just taking not giving them the growers and the foragers and the wild harvesters, they're not giving them the best price that they could actually get. So it's it's a big process. And I think that, I don't know, I guess in some way the government maybe needs to put in place some things that ensure that everyone's getting a fair deal, especially the Aboriginal people that are growing it and picking it and all that type of thing, which I think, most of our suppliers, they don't work with people unless that happens. So it's, it's just making sure that those businesses are up to date with all their sort of thing. Yeah, that's really interesting. And from those parts of East Gippsland, what sort of products are you excited about that are from that area? So in
Gunditjmara, I know that they have, there's Tower Hill, and they have, they're growing native plants and herbs. And then from Yuin, there's Bruce Pascoe's project, Black Duck Foods, and they're actually producing native grain, which is so beneficial for everyone. That should be a staple in everyone's household. It's obviously better than flour. So yeah, if they can but it's all just to do with funding and actually getting it off the ground. So I think that, once they're able to do that, then yeah, it's going to be so exciting.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'd love to learn more about the process of developing the gin. Like, you know, you have this idea, okay, I'm going to do a gin. Like, what do you do next?
Yeah, so initially I was like, oh, no, I'd love to do a wine, like, and then we looked into that and I was like, okay, that's really hard. And then I was like, oh, wow, look at all this gin with native ingredients in it, and there's only like one that's Aboriginal owned, maybe one or two, and I just thought this is definitely it, because obviously I love gin. And it was like in the summer and we were like testing, seeing which, you know, but I also wanted to find one that hadn't been done before and like that was sort of unique in that sense, because like it's obviously oversaturated with native products like the gin market in Australia. And then, yeah, we came up with a few ideas and they come back to me after they did a few tests and they were like, oh, no, you can't do that. That's too crazy. Because I was like obviously going crazy with stuff that like people would not even know about, trying to like, you know, see what we could do with it. And then, yeah, we nailed down the lemon scented gum leaf and the native lemongrass, and that was just like a really nice combination, and I just thought it worked so well together.
I reckon I can't remember which lockdown it was, Niyoka, but I remember Taka Gin really helped me through one of them. And I think it is so nicely balanced, because I guess I remember, you know, I had just a sip of it just with a little bit of ice. But then gin is something I guess you're often going to want to mix, and it really works well with mixes too, because I think you're right. Sometimes those very heavily flavoured gins can just fight with tonic or whatever it is. But I think, yeah, the balance in Taka Gin is the flavours are very much there, but the balance is there as well.
Yeah, exactly, because I'm not like a big fan of like pink gin or anything like that, and I just thought that, you know, you don't want to overpower it or anything, so any like little citrus element that's added to it just works really well, or even just on ice. So that's what we wanted to create. And then obviously we got I wanted the brand to be really unique as well. So I talked to Mum and I was like, oh, hey Mum, we're going to do this thing. Is this okay? And obviously I had to get permission to use the language name. And she was like, yeah, this is a great idea. And then I was like, would you mind doing like some artwork? I don't know, like see whatever you think. And then she come back with those, the scientific representations of the flavonoids in the gin. And I was like, oh my God, this is actually perfect, because I didn't know what I wanted, but like as soon as I seen it, I was like, that's it. And then I sent it to a graphic designer, Keisha Leon. She's an Aboriginal woman, and she made it into the digital artwork, and it just came together. And I was like, it's just like, yeah, I love it.
Just describe it for people who haven't seen it.
So it's just, the artwork is a digital representation of the flavonoids in the gin. So it's the photochemical representation, but in a cultural way. And yeah, Mum just made it into that, and I just thought it was, they're sort of like little hexagon shapes, I think they're called.
Yeah, they're like little atoms, but they've got this line drawings, and yeah, it's a really resonant and instantly makes you sort of want to know more and wonder. Yeah, I love it. It's really cool graphic to go with a great product. And tell us about your mum. She's an artist, right? Yeah, so she is an artist, Vicky Cousins. She has, I guess, installations all over Melbourne. She's pretty well known. And yeah, I guess that's where like that work ethic comes from, and like, you know, like being that boss person in charge of like a business and that, because she's always been like that. And yeah, so she and she's done like possum skin cloaks. That's what she's well known for as well. And she does like language reclamation with RMIT. So. And what does Taka actually mean?
Taka means taste in the Gunditjmara language.
Right. And then what does Pawa mean?
And Pawa means to cook as well in the Gunditjmara language.
Yeah, right.
So I wanted to keep it all like, you know, that's why I named the cafe like that, because I wanted to keep it sort of on brand as well with our catering company.
Yeah. And I understand that you also focus on employment opportunities for Aboriginal people. Can you talk about that? Yeah.
So at the moment, we don't have any in the cafe at the moment. We're putting out I put like radio. We've just got to reach out to community. I think like everybody that I know are already in like amazing jobs, like they're accountants, lawyers. So yeah, we're looking for people now. And what the thing is, as I explained before, is that I think hospitality is a great start, even if you don't want to stay in hospitality. I think that it builds character and it's like transferable, all those skills into any industry. So working with Aboriginal people that want to go into, anything and be anyone, I think like it's a great start to work with, like a company like ours, or, like even just mentoring, I think is great, and just being like a positive role model as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's so interesting, how you were saying before about, the school of hard knocks of hospitality, where you perhaps aren't treated with ultimate kindness, but that you felt that was really character forming. I mean, it's such a conundrum, don't you reckon? Because like, how do we go forward with that? Because on the one hand, you want people to be paid for every hour they worked and to be treated with kindness, but at the same time, sometimes, people do respond in a positive way to some hard truths.
Yeah, I like thinking back now, like I was terrified of like one of my chefs. She was this Russian lady, but she was so good. She taught me like how to be like, if, because you didn't want to be not on time for like anything. You were always ahead and you would not be able to leave until everything was perfect. Like if you even had one grain of like sand or a seed in the sink, you could not leave. And I was like, no, that's actually how I want my business to be run, because that is like a really good work ethic. And she wasn't that scary like in the end, but she just was like really that's how she wanted her kitchen to be run, and you just had to do it like that, and that was it. And I think that that's just it's needed more, like I think like just that, not fear, but like I guess respect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as a leader now yourself, like how do you, how do you be that boss that you want to be, that people also respond to?
Yeah, I guess like you can be friendly, but not too friendly. You know what I mean? Like you want to be friends with everyone, but then you have to draw that line where you make sure that everybody knows that like this is what they're here to do. But I think what the thing is as well, like if someone's passionate about their role, then they will give you that respect and put in that effort. And especially like if they're learning new things on the job or they respect you as a person, I think that that's a good way to start as well.
I think into something else, and something that I think comes through really clearly in you, is having a clear vision of, or a clear purpose, like a vision of what the business is actually for. I mean, do you think that's part of it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think like when I talk to people, or like I had a staff meeting yesterday, and I try to, when I'm talking to people as well, I try to get them as passionate as I am. So like I'm like all about like building the morale of the team, and like, talking to them like, hey, we're going to do this week, and like sort of be like more enthusiastic instead of being like, this is this, blah, 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 like you didn't mop the floor properly, that type of thing. I'm like, hey guys, let's do this really good this week, that. So.
Yeah, motivator. Great. So Niyoka, obviously you've got it all going on at the moment, but have you got a sort of medium to long-term vision of the future and where you want to take things?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't, I'm just really happy where we are at the moment. So just to see where the cafe goes, I guess, where it can lead us and the opportunities. I guess, and with Taka Gin, I would really like to see if that could go maybe further and get some partnership deals or international maybe. And yeah, I don't know, like I'm sort of happy now where we are. But my like long-term goal would be to like retire in Italy maybe.
Okay, let's get a villa together.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, I'm really grateful to you for speaking to us today, and all the best with all the many strands to your business. Super inspiring to hear from you about what you're up to and what's down the road. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great to chat.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinenat.deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.
This